Hello and welcome. Today I am going to show you something. It's this, but I don't exactly know what it is. This instrument was sent in to me by a viewer of this channel named Christian. He has sent this to me in exchange for me recommending you check out his channel. So please do that, drop his channel a like. The link for that is down in the video description below. So we'll start with what I do know. It is a brass instrument made out of brass, and on the bell here it says Sonore van der Glas Holland, and then the word I can't pronounce. Now what I have found out online about this instrument is that it wasn't made by Van der Glas because they didn't make instruments, or at least they didn't make these kind of instruments. It looks Dutch. It looks like an instrument that was made in the Netherlands, and it could have been made by a number of Dutch manufacturers on there. And doing some research, I found a couple of unpronounceable names that may have made instruments for Van der Glas. But that's sort of really all I can find about it. If I look for examples of other instruments made by those unnamed, unpronounceable manufacturers, I can't find anything that looks like this. It is a brass instrument that takes an alto horn sized mouthpiece. It plays in the key of E flat. It's in the shape of a trumpet or a flugelhorn, but I'm not really convinced it's either of those instruments. It could be a sort of tenor or bass trumpet, or a tenor or bass flugelhorn, or something like that, but I really don't know. So I guess the first question here is, if you know what this is, please let me know. There's not that many remarkable things about the construction of the instrument. If we take the valves out, we see it's got quite a small, short, stumpy valve. It has quite a long valve stem. It's sprung from the bottom, as we often see on anything bigger than a trumpet or a cornet. The only other thing to note is that the ports through the valve casing are all in a line. Now this is something that we often see in older instruments. It could be that this instrument is sort of pre-World War II. In fact, I can almost guarantee that this instrument is pre-World War II. Brass instruments are a big compromise when it comes to tuning, because playing the same valve combinations with the way that the harmonic series works means that some notes are going to be naturally in tune, some notes are going to be naturally sharp, some notes are going to be naturally flat. Instrument manufacturers recognize this, and so they have a tendency to make everything just a little bit sharp. The theory being is that you can pull out your tuning slides a little bit, you can flatten using your embouchure, and it's easier to flatten a sharp instrument than it is to sharpen a flat instrument. And so when you get an instrument like this, and one of the things I noticed is that the first valve tuning slide is a little bit flatter than what I expected it to be. And so some notes that are naturally flat are exceptionally flat, but notes that are naturally a little bit sharp, they tend to play in tune. So it's a compromise, and it's a different style of compromise than what I am particularly used to with other instruments. Going back for a moment as to what this instrument could be, I have a few other instruments that we could compare it to. One of the thoughts is that this could just simply be a larger trumpet. Trumpets are normally in B flat, this is in the lower E flat. But I have a German-made, not an exotic German-made, but a German-made trumpet. And as you can see, it's about the same length, but it's physically a lot smaller. The size of the bell and the rate of the flare of the bell is again much shorter. In fact, it's only about 60% of the size. But on the other hand, if we look at an E-flat horn that I have, now this is in the other end of the spectrum where it's actually even bigger. The difference isn't quite as dramatic as far as the bell size is concerned, but the girth of the section leading up to the bell is much bigger on this instrument. So to call it a member of the horn family, i.e. like a flugelhorn or something like that, again, I'm not quite sure that that's the right answer. All of these three instruments use the same size mouthpiece receiver, within a fraction of a millimeter. And so what I'll do now is give you a demonstration between the sound that these three instruments make. And starting with the biggest one, this is going to create the sort of most horn-like sound. Sounds like this. I really don't know why more manufacturers don't spend time thinking about the ergonomics of their instrument. For instance, the pinky ring. If you like having your finger on top of the pinky ring, there isn't enough of a ledge there for your finger to rest comfortably. It just slides off. Whereas if you have your pinky ring inside it, it's not at the right angle. It just doesn't feel right. Most people who play a trumpet or a flugelhorn or a cornet or something like that are encouraged to rest their thumb in amongst the valve casing here. But on this instrument, you can't fit your thumb in there. You've got the tubing for the second and first tuning slides in the way. Now you could have your thumb sideways so you can physically get it in there, but that means your fingers are nowhere near where the valves are. So that's not a solution there. The way that you combat that is to have your finger splayed to the side like this, just sort of flopping around in the breeze. And that's a way that's discouraged because it encourages the rest of your fingers to push the valves down on an angle. It's not something that's really recommended. So from an ergonomics perspective, it's not very comfortable. As far as the other hand is concerned, it's actually not too bad. The left hand to support the weight of the instrument isn't too bad. You can hold it the way that this tuning slide is here. It actually gives you a reasonably comfortable way to hold on. Or you can hold your instrument, up a little bit higher if you prefer. It's just mainly the right hand, the thing that does all of the work, that's not particularly comfortable. Thank you very much, Christian, for sending this very peculiar instrument in, and thank you everyone else for watching.